This is Paul. I was reading this law dictionary. They have what's called the value in cash, the worth of a thing in terms of money, the market value. Yes. The saleable value, the fair value, etc. See also value, fair and reasonable market value. Most all properties have what's called a broker value. It's a type of computer generated value of the actual value of the property if it were to be put on the market today. Now, when I was a loan officer, I worked for East West Mortgage Company and Sound Mortgage, and I just did a couple loans during the time that I was working with loan officers about non-recourse loans when you can buy different properties in IRAs and 401ks. But I learned a lot about condominiums. Now, a condominium is the joint ownership of a multi-unit dwelling, each of whose owners have exclusive ownership of an individual unit, but in which all common elements, the lobby, the ground, swimming pool, etc., are owned by the tenants in common, with no single tenant having exclusive rights to such facilities. I just wanted to get the broker value of every property, of every oath of office. Yes. And all of those that are attorneys and employees of law schools and those that are principals and superintendents. I'm wanting to pick up a few additional condominiums. It's nice to know the actual broker value of every property owned by all of those that got elected to office, that did understand the qualifications necessary to be a representative or a senator. Now, quite often when you're very busy in politics, you don't want to have that second residence be a big multi-million-dollar home. You just want a nice condominium in Washington, D.C. So if you could get me the actual broker value, if the market value today of every property owned by every police officer, coach, every sheriff and undersheriff, every person that's a mandatory reporter throughout the nation, okay? Every person elected and appointed to office that has sworn that they would support and defend the Constitution, and all the condominium agreements. Let's say you get sued because you're a senator in the United States Congress and you know my civil rights are being violated. Pooch. You know my sons are being held hostage, and they've been held hostage for 6 years because I was not given any notice or opportunity to be heard before you issued the first protection order. Now I'm going to want to know the actual value of every piece of property owned by all 1.5 to 2 million oaths of office. Then I'm going to need to know the broker value. Now, it seemed to me that some people really like to value what they own, maybe a little more than it's actually worth. Then I want all those condominium agreements, and I want to know every tenant in every condominium, that every oath of office has any ownership of any of the units in. Now, let's say you're a judge. You're living over there in Seattle, and I know it can be a problem, the whole commute problem, and it's nice to have one of those $1.5 million condominiums in one of those high-rise condominium units. And you're thinking to yourself, I got a small mortgage, I'm able to cover my weekly nut. Now it costs you something. But when I go to look at suing insurance companies that insure those that are employees of every court in the Washington state, then I go to look at, well, what did you actually appraise the condominium at, and what was the broker value of it? Because they have software programs that do the valuations, the fair market valuation of all the residences of those that are in politics. Now, let's say I go to sue and you decide you're going to undervalue your assets, instead of the overvalue that you used when you purchased or when you got your mortgage. Now, quite often when you do the adjustments to the broker value of all the different properties, it could be that somebody's been helping themselves to some equity that they didn't deserve. Now, it would be a problem to have to sue any representative or senator of any state legislature that overvalued their property after they purchased it so they could get themselves a home equity line of credit, and they undervalued the property when they purchased it. Now, I'm just going to want to go through the exact calculation of the last 20 years of values, the appraised value, the purchase value, the mortgage value, the equity value, and then the actual value of today's fair market value. Now, I'm looking to pick up some of these really nice $1 million condominiums for those that volunteer. You know, I'm real serious about the office. I don't expect women to work more than 10 to 15 days a month in the office. The rest of the time, they're going to have to commute some places like a timeshare, but it's a condominium in a luxury condominium building. And I know when you volunteer your erogenous zones to deprogram humanity, pow, 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 it'd be nice to be able to have one of those really nice 5-star luxury condominiums to stay at when you're not working in the office. So give me the ownership in the last 20 years of value of all of the different properties of those that are insured as employees of every city, county, state, and federal.